Good morning, Southeast Asia, and we welcome you back to the Green Premier League Spring Season 2018. My name is Volkan, with me is Arctic, your shoutcasters entering the second day of the playoffs, or the last day of the GPL. What a ride we had here, Arctic, from our first day of the group stages until now.
Yeah, and it's been pretty interesting right there. Like we mentioned, Vietnam is kind of out of the picture here as of the recent GPL. So it's any one of these 5 countries' time to shine, and it looks like we'll be finding out who among Malaysia and Thailand later on during the day will eventually be crowned the very last 2018 Spring GPL champion. But before we get into that, of course, we'll be having the battle for third between Sovereign of Singapore versus MSK of the Philippines.
What a way to welcome the new GPL with a good goodbye, because when it comes to the new format, we know that Vietnam had a new competitive region, but now looks like all the other regions have stepped up their level, and shows right now looks like MSK and Sovereign will be battling for third before we move on to the finals to determine who will represent us, the Southeast Asia, moving on to the MSI.
Right, and so far looking at these bands right here, so lots of diversity in a sense. I mean, we're pretty much on day 4 of the GPL already. All of these teams have managed to scout out what each side is proficient at using, so I'm not really surprised as to what bands we're seeing here. A lot of heavy focus on Gary coming in from what bands we see from Sovereign by taking out the Ezreal as well as the Caitlyn. TG as well, quite proficient on this Tom Kench. Meanwhile, interesting enough, MSK gonna set priority on this Swain. So this Swain was the very reason they unfortunately failed to make it all the way to the finals, ultimately falling 1-3 to Kuala Lumpur Hunters of Malaysia.
Yes, that was a great victory for KLH. What a performance they had, especially Caspiel and Nozoro Becky. But when it comes to MSK, they need to learn from their mistakes, and now picking up one of the champions that have been rising in popularity, not just in the competitive region, but also in the international solo region, because Swain is one of the powerful flex picks that we all know and love. But for MSK, this is a pattern we see. June always played the Sejuani during the time of the semifinals. That has been taken away by Sovereign, so he answers that with a Zac.
Yeah, still, I mean, even with the Sejuani taken by Sovereign, Zac is still a pretty efficient alternative to that. And this will still nonetheless allow Jun to influence the lanes. But nonetheless, aside from that, Zac looks like they have decided to go for this Varus for Gary, seeing very well that Sovereign has already chosen a champion for Mexi in the form of this Saya, and they'll be locking up that composition with a Thresh as well, efficiently showing what both Mexi and Kra will be utilizing in this bot lane.
We did see EXO play this Swain in the mid lane, so for Sovereign, they will target out the support pool, removing the Tom Kench of TG, and as right now, the Morgana. This is our phase 2 of the drafting phase. Sovereign, last ban.
Yep. So with this Morgana ban though, I mean, this is another champions that TG was able to use with much efficiency in the Garena Premier League. Sure, some of those games might have been losing, but still a proficient pick nonetheless. Meanwhile, this Leona as well, so this just goes to show how much homework Sovereign has done, and they're not going to be taking this battle for third lightly. I mean, for both sides, unfortunately, the road to making it to MSI has pretty much ended with their defeats in the semifinals game, but why not go out with the final GPL of the season before we transition to the new changes in esports for Southeast Asia with a ban.
So for MSK, they will remove the Fiora in the top lane. Note that for MSK, they have yet to lock in their support at top, or it could be a flex. But Sovereign will be picking first in our phase 2. Let's see, they will take away the Cassiopeia.
So Cassiopeia immediately lock in there, no hesitation coming from the side of Sovereign, giving it on to Arcalic. I'm wondering what MSK will be going for. We're yet to see a potential top laner. I highly doubt that the Swain will be flexed to the top side unless MSK has something up their sleeve. Looks like the Braum will be locked in to complement that Varus. And let's go ahead and see what Three Finger has up his sleeve here as far as the final pick that he wants drafted. Looks like they're really thinking this over here, but still from what I'm seeing here, very solid coming in from MSK. A lot of initiation tools, a lot of ways they could potentially topple and get a good set onto the members of Sovereign, further complemented by this last pick here in the form of the Warren.
They have taken away the Braum, one of the support picks that's quite popular in the GPL ever since the day 1 of the group stages, but looks like MSK will be blind picking this Ornn. Let's see, it will be, yes, a Gangplank. Yep. Being picked into this Ornn in a way, it's a free lane for this Gangplank, so let's see what can MSK do.
Not a bad pick here coming in from Sovereign. I mean, it's just very classic, this Ornn versus Gangplank matchup. I'm wondering how Shinsekai will be performing on this champion though. But overall, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here from both sides. It's just going to be massively explosive team fights overall. Probably more so for MSK. They have a lot more tools to be proactive unless Sovereign can pull the trigger first. I mean, they have their own options as well, whether it be a single target in the form of getting the hook through Kra or an excellent potential Glacial person that could come out of Ice Destiny. I mean, it fits the thematic here. Sejuani, Ice Destiny, kind of chilly all over for this jungle farming from Sovereign, but overall, really good picks here, and I like that looking at the overall mindset from both Sovereign and MSK. They're not going to allow that defeat from the semifinals deter them from at least securing that third place slot here in this battle for third.
Yes, as so far, the performance of MSK and Sovereign have been well up till the playoff stage, especially for MSK, where they had the pride of the Philippines on their backs, but in the end, they will try and make us proud by taking the third spot. But as for Sovereign, they also want to go out with a bag.
Yes, so there you have it, guys. Looks like we are on the riff right now. Once again, it is MSK of the Philippines versus Sovereign of Singapore taking the stage right now. Let's go ahead and see who will triumph, who will clinch that third spot and end their GPL run on a little bit of a higher note to make up for lost grounds from yesterday.
Well, in a way, this game is less pressuring for the teams, and we all know what happens when the players are a bit relaxed. They play a bit more aggressive, they play in a way to relax or try to enjoy themselves before the GPL ends, because at this point, battle for third is important. We know that the prize pool is there, but except for Sovereign, this is their first run, right, in the GPL, so why not try and take the third spot?
Yep, we'll just have to see though. I mean, with what transpired yesterday, I think from what we saw between Sovereign and Ascension game, it did not end well for Sovereign more so than MSK, but looks like we see both junglers here starting off opposite sides of the map, so eventually going to transition towards wondering how this is going to go though, because from what I'm seeing here, both with Ice Destiny and June running both the Sejuani and Zac respectively, could eventually lead to much more proactivity going into ganks for, especially for June. I mean, on this Zac, I'm wondering if we'll be seeing some early elastic slingshot ganks coming in from the jungle of MSK, but still we'll just have to see. Meanwhile, looking at this matchup right here, still pretty much balanced out here as well. I'm wondering, I think Kra could very much take advantage of potential sets earlier on just to get some pressure onto Gary and TG, but let's go ahead and see.
As for the junglers, they did start in opposite sides here, and we can see already the top lane. Being an Ornn has a natural wave clear, will push out the Gangplank, but in the end, this is a game about scaling. In the Gangplank at early levels, the party has a lot of consume of mana, so we'll leave it to Sovereign to wait out for the beginning spin.
Yep, but so far looks like okay. Interesting juggle here coming in from June. This is actually quite an efficient way to just hit two birds in one stone on this Zac. So that just makes it a little bit more faster, a little bit of multitasking. I think that's a good exhibition right there for Zac mains to make good use of, and that's going to be a little bit of a hook there. And that's what I'm talking about. Kra, as soon as he gets the hook onto any one of these members, doesn't necessarily have to be Gary, even TG to an extent, they could just go for full pressure. And if anything, I think that it's mostly going to be Mexi and Kra pushing that advantage until such time that maybe until we hit level 6 for the bot lanes, or again, like I mentioned, June could potentially go for an influence in lane as well through this elastic slingshot, which we are going to be seeing in this mid lane.
Outside of our war, that will be the Elastation connecting ends, trying to cleanse away. Their Vision of Vampire will be the slow, but that will be the first blood going to the Zac.
Meanwhile, looking here in the bot lane, unfortunately, TG will get picked off right there, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, Kra and Mexi, they have a lot more potential to get that earlier lockdown in comparison to Gary and TG. Looks like TG will be suffering the price there. So 1-for-1 across the board. MSK did get that first blood, so they have that smaller advantage right there.
At least they got the first blood there, but meanwhile in the bot lane, looks like TG, from the early aggression, he did suffer a lot, could not heal up just in time. That will be the move in by Sovereign. With the help of the support Thresh for that setup, will take away one kill, giving it to himself but at least it did not fall to the hands of the Zaya.
Yeah, interesting though, because if you're gonna look at Mineski, as far as their playoffs run here in the GPL, I think they held their ground a bit. It's just that there were a lot of elements that could have been done better going up against the Kuala Lumpur Hunters. I'm wondering if that'll actually... Okay, I'll have to hold there.
Ice Destiny going for the gang. Forces at the flash from EXO. Reactive flash coming from the mid laner of Mineski. Does not want to risk anything.
I mean, this is a Swain that we're talking about for Exosen. Not exactly the most mobile champion. If anything, I guess Exosen realizing that he needed to expend that flash early just to make sure that he makes it out to safety, just to avoid a potential barrage of damage coming in from Irakalik, complemented by Ice Destiny through that gank. But looks like Mineski, they have a little bit of a plan of their own, lingering towards the bottom side of this river, but they'll go back away for the meantime. Will just content themselves through establishing vision.
Looks like TG will rotate towards the mid lane, but as far as we talked about their run in the GPL, especially for Mineski, it was a great game it played. Kuala Lumpur Hunters going for a 3-1. But when it came to Sovereign's games with Ascension, it was a dominating 3-0 with Ascension, taking away that spot, moving on to the finals. So Sovereign, first run. A rude wake-up call, but looks like in the mid lane, EXO will say hello. He does not have flash. Connects the bind. The hook will not connect. A bit too short.
Yep, Krod just a little bit off there, but good attempt nonetheless. I'm liking the proactivity coming in from both supports here, making rotations towards the mid lane when they can, looking for opportunities to just push their advantages all the more, but hasn't really led to anything. Meanwhile, Kaigu gonna juke it out with Shinsekai here.
Forge gun coming in. Will this be a kill? Onto the tower. Here it comes. Cannon Barrage is there for the slow. Forces up the splash from Kaigu.
Kaigu forced the flash away there, and if anything, at the end of the day, sure, he was able to get quite a bit of chunk damage onto Shinsekai. It didn't lead to a kill though, but looks like June will help relieve that.
Here comes Gang over the wall. Gamma gets onto the air, and Kaigu picks up an easy kill thanks to June.
Yeah, good thing June was there in the vicinity.
Oh, Lantern Express coming in the bot lane. Sovereign sets up for a gang for the Zaya. That would be a kill for Ice Destiny, but meanwhile, I guess in the top lane, things were a bit busy. Sovereign saw that and tried to make a gank happen in their bot lane.
Yeah, not a bad trade-off here coming in from Sovereign, and I gotta say that if you're gonna look at things, that's probably much more optimal for Sovereign to push for whichever lane is having that advantage right now, just so that they could capitalize on that champion that's snowballing right now. And it's definitely looking pretty good here for both Mexi as well as Crown. Unfortunately, none of those two kills that happened in the bot lane did go to Mexi, but still a great step here from Sovereign to at least make sure that trades happen in the midst of kills that's happening across the map.
Let me change everything here. June going for the gank here, but will not push through. Things seems a bit wrong for Mineski, so they will not risk anymore. They did lose TG for the second time.
Yep, but still though, looks like, I mean, it's still pretty much balanced out here, but then again, as far as how these kills are panned out, it's a little bit more balanced for Mineski as opposed to, okay, Kaigu just going in on it with Shinsekai again there. Really pushing for it.
Going for the trade-offs here to try and dwindle down the mana of this Gangplank, but in the end, we are seeing for Kaigu, he did get the Glacial Shroud. One cloth armor, may go for the Tabi here, but EXO sees the Thresh. Hook, ooh, connects here. Lantern there, will be in time. Cassiopeia goes in, target session by EXO. Here comes damage over time by the Sway. Will he survive here? We're seeing TG over the wall with the Unbreakable. Glacial Prison does not connect. What a damage coming from the Dark Ascension, but in the end, could not take a kill. Jun goes in for the counter here. Forge gun coming in. Two-man Luggo will not connect. They at least caught up the Zaya. Now it's going to be 3v5 here in the mid lane. Meanwhile, we are seeing Gary from the bot lane coming in hard with a double kill in the mid lane.
Yep, still quite a prolonged fight right here. Things aren't just
Oh, Zack really pushing it through with the Zaya, but in the end, forced to pop the Cell division.
And that, whoa, and then that was quite a prolonged fight right there. But at the end of the day, of course, Mineski gonna come up on top with a 3-for-1. So that was pretty long though, and I gotta give kudos to TG. He got a lot of value through that shield, being able to hold off ultimates from Ice Destiny, and I believe there was one more that I missed out on, but overall just good work there coming in from Mineski. I like the response as well just being able to turn things around just so that they could make sure that they get much more value out of that fight than Sovereign did.
They definitely did, with Gary picking up the double kill and an assist. So this could potentially rush out the Quincy Rage Blade for MSK. So let's see for Sovereign. They started a fight in the mid lane. They could not end it in their favor, but at least in the end they were able to get something out of it.
And still though, I mean, it's still not that much of a massive deficit that we're seeing here. If anything, MSK is slowly clawing their advantage up, but there's still a lot of room for Sovereign to make up for lost ground. Again, like I mentioned, there's been quite the success with what Mexi and Kra has been demonstrating in the bot lane. And if I'm not mistaken, Kra is the very player that pretty much had an exhibition, like a full montage out of one of the games that he played during the group stage. So if anything, I think there's going to be a lot more that we'll be seeing off the support of Sovereign to go for these potential plays onto the members of MSK. But we'll just have to see how that goes down within these next few minutes, if that will be a feasibility. But looks like we are seeing Ice Destiny and Kra making the proactive move to roam across this map, looking for potential pickoffs, looking to scout off June if they can.
Jenna connects to the Zaya, all alone in the bot lane. Sets up with a glacial fissure. That's going to be a kill going to Gary.
Yes, great move coming in there from MSK, knowing very well that Kra was kind of out of the vicinity there, so they just went full on throttle onto Mexi. Meanwhile, looks like they're going to push for more advantages here.
Oh, Gary, what's he gonna do? He does not hit him on Chain of Corruption, but Jun will go in with the sack, trying to deny the Lantern here. Denies the Lantern, denies the escape in a bot lane. Looks like Gary will take down Ice Destiny.
Yeah, and all that damage, Jun just tanking it like a champ. Great play coming there from MSK, knowing very well that if you're gonna look at who was in defense on Sovereign, it was just the tankier members. They didn't have to worry about damage. If anything, it was just a turret that was chunking them, and you just get a lot more value out of that. Let's go ahead and see. Mexi is making his way towards this bot lane, so let's go ahead and see if Sovereign can salvage this turret.
Oh, the hook will connect to TG. First turret of the game is at risk here. Sovereign may just give it away for free. Cannon Barrage is not available, and Exo making its way towards the top bot lane, and Sovereign will just back off.
And oh man, first turret going to MSK. They are starting to shift gears here in a much more forward way than Sovereign is. Sovereign has been a bit more responsive as of these recent plays right here. They haven't been pulling the trigger as much across the board, even towards top lane in these 1v1s with Kaigu and Shinsekai. It's mostly been Kaigu just pushing for his advantages when he can, and just MSK emerging on top overall. And this is great for Gary, I'd have to highlight, because earlier I was saying how Mexi and Kra was kind of the element that Sovereign could have worked with as far as who has been having a better early game, but that was just immediately flipped through 180 with the standing that Gary has right now. 4-0-1 on this Varus. I'm thinking that Gary, he's probably, whatever rage that happened in the midst of their defeat against Kuala Lumpur Hunters, it's definitely translating in this game 1 right now.
401 on his Varus with the Rage Blade completed. That's something that Gary wanted to go for, but looks like we're still seeing TJ roaming around the mid lane, now eyeing for this Cassiopeia. Gary tries to cut him off here, and that's going to be Glacial Fissure onto the Cassiopeia. Tries to flash away. There's the Lantern for the save. 4-shot coming in, and there's the knock up to 3 members strong. MSK fighting the fight in the blue side. Teleport coming in. Gamblack is here, but can he do anything here? Because we're seeing the members of MSK pushing back the Gamblack's teleport, and while other members that Gary, they're pushing back Sovereign and the blue side. Now they're focused onto the Gangplank. He gets stunned there, will not escape. Lantern for the save again.
Oof. It looks like the rest of Sovereign will manage to escape, but that ends in yet another victory for MSK. If you notice, you might be wondering, Mexi was full health, but why did he continue backing? They could have taken that fight, but you have to take note, mana bar was fairly low for him, so there wasn't really much Sovereign could have done unless you want to just try to pummel with basic attacks, but of course that wouldn't work at that point because MSK was just raring to go in that fight, and they'll transition that 2-1 with an additional dragon for their taking.
The Ocean Drake, the first Drake of the game, will go to the hands of MSK. So far for Sovereign, they tried their best though. I mean, MSK, after destroying the first turret in the bot lane, you know, TJ would love to roam around with the Braum and set things up with a Fissure, especially on a Cassiopeia with that much mobility.
But, I mean, still, there are advantages that Sovereign can push for. Like I mentioned, they could go for potential pickoffs as soon as Ice Destiny has the ultimate. Arkellic has his own tools as well. There's a lot of things that they could do with this composition. That's what kind of baffles me here, is that I haven't been seeing as much proactivity the same way that Mineski has, which is kind of the reason why we are seeing them win most of these fights. They get the better set, and even when Sovereign tries to match Mineski in these fights, if you notice, Mexi, once he went in for that response, barely had any mana. So I think Sovereign needs to look at those, even those fine details right there, those small details that would otherwise have helped in the fights, but if anything, just becomes detriments in the end.
Very true. So for Mineski, after the brawl in the bot lane, I'm not sure what they're trying to go for here, because at this point they're trying their best to invade the side of Sovereign, remove more resources on their side. But looking at the minimap, we're seeing that for Sovereign, they cannot be the ones to respond here. Maybe for Mineski, after taking down this top lane, they may go for their Herald, but looks like they will set things up here.
It looks like Mineski just going to make that easy transition right there towards top side. They have their eyes on taking this first tier turret towards top. It looks like they're going to go for just that. Ice Destiny, though, he has the potential to hold the fort.
Oh? June is trying to go in for a dive here, but that's kind of risky because we're seeing a Zaya, a Thresh, and a Sejuani. The Thresh can just simply play out the Zac and deny the engage that Mineski wants.
Meanwhile, though, looks like Sovereign, they are committing a lot of members here just to make sure that they get the defense. Exosen might actually go for a flank maneuver here.
Oh, but he is getting chased by two members. He gets pincered. Oh my god, he's all alone in the red side, but he does pop the Darkest Action. Mineski is starting to start a fight here, but look at June with that great kidnap, setting up 2 kills for Mineski and an EXO with the zone.
Yeah, Sovereign was not able to create a set off of that. It was Mineski that was able to get a better setup there, and it looks like with 2 members down, both Arkellic and Ice Destiny, Mineski will push their advantage further by taking this turret. And take note, Rift Herald has been started by June, so that's just going to be a lot more value out of this. Mineski has been playing it beautifully these past 16 minutes.
Now they're going for the Rift Herald. Right after the right after the turret in the top lane, looks like Mineski are happy to get 2 kills off that. It looks like EXO's Misadventures was a success.
Misadventures indeed, but at the end of the day, I think Sovereign was not expecting that. As soon as they spotted Exosen, it's like, okay guys, you need to start backing away. Mineski could get a potential set right there, and they tried to turn things around by going for Exosen, but that's just a positive for Exosen right there. All members of Sovereign converging onto him, pop that ultimate, get a lot more heal out of that, and Mineski was just right there in the vicinity in the nick of time that Sovereign couldn't overwhelm Exosen at that moment. So again, I'm really looking to see if Sovereign can look for these opportunities. They have the kit to do so, to get pickoffs. It's just that I haven't seen it yet ever since the earlier minutes.
Sovereign right now, if we look at their comp, they really have to wait for their spikes in the late game, because for Mineski, at this point, with the amount of lead they have, especially you can see in the kill score, also the gold, that they are the ones in control at this point. But for Sovereign, I still have high hopes that they want to end this GPL on a high note, try to get their 3rd spot. This is their first run.
But still, Mineski, amidst this proactivity, they also need to continue to pick up this pace. I don't think they can afford to slow down by any means in this game, because as you mentioned, as far as scaling goes, Sovereign does have that opportunity they can reach that point, but it looks like, as I've been saying, proactivity on the side of Mineski, they're going to push for it even further. Rift Herald has been released in the mid lane. That's just going to be the final first tier turret that Mineski is eyeing, just so that they have much more control over Summoner's Rift. That's going to bring you the passion. Boom.
Try again with the hooks. There's the slow. Oh, there he comes. Here comes the die with the Forge Gun and the Synchro with Mineski onto the tower with the Rift Herald doing the works here. EXO with the Dark Ascension. He's trying to deal damage here onto the members of Sovereign, and zoning out the Zaya and the Gangplank, leaving behind Kra, but looks like Sovereign, they're trying to fight back here.
But still, Sovereign was able to take down both Kaigo and Gary.
Oh, Featherstorm in and out. Looks like they will catch up June in the Zac. So far, we're seeing the Gangplank chasing away the members here. One more stack to the stun, does not connect. That's going to be TG and EXO backing off. He does cleanse away. There's a Scurvy for the stun.
but still looks like the rest of Mineski will escape. But that was a little bit of an overreach by the Philippine squad right there. I think they overestimated just how far ahead they are, which is not really of a heavy substance yet. And that's going to be Sovereign finally being able to take another turret here in this mid lane. Looks like they will back away for now, but take no. Teleport was popped by Kaigu. Will he be able to go for something?
Forge God is up in cooldown just for a while. We do see TG too, but I don't think for Mineski they can do anything here. Maybe set up for the Ocean Drake that will be live in 4 seconds.
Yeah, that was a little bit awkward there. I don't think that teleport was needed. I understand that they might have been going for a play, but if you're going to look at the positioning of the rest of Mineski, I don't think they had enough tools to go for a pickup.
Looks like they'll try to make most of this teleport. Kaigo using the Forge God. Oh, teleport coming in. Could not deny. Oh, the last brittle. That will be the finishing blow.
Yes, lucky in on their Kaigu just made it in the nick of time. So at least they managed to get a small consolation out of that teleport. And of course, they'll be transitioning into yet another dragon take.
The second Drake will fall to the hands of Mineski. That would be the Ocean. Next Drake is Mountain.
Good play there coming in from Mineski. I mean, you gotta make the most of that. Teleport was expended. Was hoping to get for more targets, but at least they did find Shinsekai in the bot lane. Might have overreached his boundaries there. And especially, Dragon was up. So, since Sovereign spotted out that Mineski went for that teleport, wasn't able to get anybody in that mid lane, I feel like Shinsekai should have estimated that Mineski would have probably most likely have gone for that Dragon at that point. And by overstaying in that bot lane, you know, as soon as they went for Dragon, hey, Shinsekai is still lingering towards bot. Let's go ahead and take him down just for that extra value. And again, it's just Mineski pushing for all the more advantages here.
Kill score is 30-7. They took at least the second Ocean Drake, and they may eye Justice Baron.
Looks like Mineski, they are starting to establish control over this upper side here. Sovereign, under any circumstances, does not want to give that up to Mineski because Mineski already has a little bit of better control over this map. By taking that Baron, that's just going to push it all the more in this game. So let's go ahead and see, though, if Sovereign can make that proactive move, though. They need to start establishing their own form of control, at least if they can't through their overall own side of the map, at least towards that upper side, as I mentioned, because that Baron buff, Baron Asher is going to be very crucial at this point.
I think for Sovereign, they're trying their best here to go in for some vision control, but already Mineski, we're seeing that they just recall to their base, and you can see that right now Sovereign trying to establish their own vision.
And there you have it. Looks like we have started to see that proactive move right there. But then again, if you're going to notice how Mineski is poising themselves across this map, looks like they made sure that they shoved out all these waves first. And okay, so looks like they're potentially estimating to get a base checker.
Look at that check by Jun to try and catch Kra off guard with a ward. Fisher, knock up the nut connect. So I don't think for Mineski they will go and push on with Kra. And for Kra, kind of happy there. Denied at least the engage and burns that ultimate, which Mineski may need when they go for the Baron.
Yep, so Mineski, though, again, they're just looking for more opportunities. I think, okay, June.
Charging things up here, overextends, play was used, Fortune coming in from the Fog of War. Oh, look at that knock up there coming from the Sejuani, and you can see that for Kaigo, he will take down Ice Destiny.
Man, Mineski definitely, their plan to at least get a pickup first before going for Baron paid off immensely.
That's the jungler remove.
Yeah, exactly. That is the jungler remove. So Mineski does not have to worry about a potential smite steal coming in from the members of Sovereign.
That's not going to stop Sovereign here. Exo pops the Dark Extension. Meanwhile, we can see that for the Zayat, Mika tried to do his best here, but in the end, could not contest the Baron.
Yep. So great play here coming in from Mineski. And that is going to be the ace onto the members of Sovereign right there in Mineski. Unfortunately, June did go down in that fight, but then again, I'd take a 1 for 5 any day. Won't be able to push for this Baron, though, if I'm not mistaken, because health bars, it would be a little bit more on the scarier side. But since that is the case, Mineski just going to go for the siege in this mid lane, going to take that second turret, and, you know, it's just building up right there. You don't really need to rush this as much, but looks like Kra is going to be going on the defense right here. Does get the hook on, but I don't think it'll be optimal to go in there right now, so he will back away. They will have to give up the second turret.
Yes, it's sad that for Mineski, they could not go for the Baron, but it was a wise choice not to force something and to overreach that maybe they can chew off more than bite up more than they can chew. So for Sovereign, now they're back from the fountain. They will try and I guess take back the territory of the Baron.
Yep. But still, looks like Sovereign, they're not going to let that maneuver from Mineski deter them. So they're going to establish vision again. I hope Sovereign learned from that mistake earlier, because if you saw what happened, like I mentioned, Mineski, they were trying to go for pickoffs first before turning to the Baron. Let's go ahead and see what transpired here, though. So 3 members of Sovereign, I could kind of see the idea here. They might have wanted to contest this, but at the same time, they needed to respect that that was still 5 members up and kicking for Mineski. And you have to take into account that they had that lead. Let's go ahead and see we're going to be having a fight here.
Look at that. Chainik Barrage at 4th guard was used to try and pick off the Cassiopeia. Succeeds. Now June is pushing hard in the mid lane. Mineski takes away 1 more member. That will be the Thresh. So at this point, Sovereign, they do not have the Zac to try and deny the engage coming from June. So for Mineski, pushing in the mid lane, goes in hard. Fearless here, killer happening to 2 members of Sovereign. Mineski closing into the base here under the tower. Cannon Barrage was used to try and zone out the members of Mineski. Succeeds, pushes back Mineski, and Sovereign will defend their inhibitor turret.
Yes, Sovereign, they managed to hold the fort for themselves for the meantime. Mineski, they were very much intent on taking who June was able to get, and that was Ice Destiny. But Ice Destiny, he has a sizable amount of tankiness in himself by this point. So Mineski, even with the full convergence, was not able to topple him down right off the bat. And you have to take note that at this point, the base damages won't be enough coming in from elements like Kaigu on this Ornn, or just June and TG. If anything, there's definitely going to be a lot more of a heavier reliance on Exocet and Gary to shred down these tanks.
As for Mineski, they're trying their best here to try and establish more control around the map. But for Sovereign, at this point, they're actually scaling up here. They're actually going in for the win condition where the Cassiopeia is stacking up. Same with the Gangplank and the Xayah. So for Mineski, they're on a timer, because the next Baron bid, if they try to contest it, Sovereign can really go for it because they have the Cassiopeia.
But then again, I like this. Still Sovereign making sure that they keep on their toes right here. Looks like finally they're looking at taking their first Dragon of the game. Members of Mineski are making their way towards this pit, though.
At least they have some vision established, but they cannot go for a contest. Oh.
Okay, so Mineski, they are going to be starting off this Mountain Drake right now. The rest of Sovereign looks like they're going to give that up. I don't think they're in the position to contest this, but looks like Mineski just going to hold off right there. They don't feel any priority, but TG in quite a bit of trouble.
Oh, going straight for the high priority. They went straight for the Xayah, but Mexi does finish Sovereign away, leaving behind the members of Sovereign to back away, but Exo dives in hard with a Dark Ascension. That's going to be burst damage coming from Mineski, and cleans up the fight in the mid lane.
Yeah, that's going to be 3-0 in favor of Mineski. Sovereign, they tunneled way too much on TG in that mid lane right there, and probably not the best thing, because in the midst of trying to chase down TG, they expended quite a bit of resources, and of course, this is going to allow Mineski to take the Baron. But take note, Ice Destiny is up. Can he go for the steal here to keep the dream alive for Sovereign to at least end this GPL on a high note by starting off game 1 strong?
Well, for Ice Destiny, forced to flash away. Looks like no contest will happen to the side of Sovereign.
Your Sovereign looks like they
face check,
have resigned themselves to giving up.
Oh, shit, that guy very low. Oh, gets taken down by Exocet. And for Mineski, takes away the Baron.
That's going to be Mineski. Great job right there. We'll secure the Baron. That's just going to exemplify their advantages all the more in this game. Looks like Kaigu just going to make sure these waves are shoved out. Sovereign, they need to solidify their defenses right now, because if anything, if Mineski gets a positive out of the next fight, then it could be the finish for the Philippine squad, toppling down the Singaporean squad. Let's go ahead and see if Sovereign has some fight left in them to try to salvage this game 1, because things are looking quite grim. Even across the scoreboards right here, nobody on Sovereign really has a particular leg up. If anything, maybe Mexi, but if you're going to compare it to his counterpart, Gary, he's an absolute beast with a 12-1 standing on this Varus. Not just him, but everybody on Mineski is pretty much positive on the stats right now. Not to mention itemization as well. If you're going to look at it, almost everyone is ahead in comparison to their counterpart. So that's definitely something that at the end of the day is just almost a triple negative for Sovereign in all aspects.
Yeah, after that battle in the mid, we did see what happened for Sovereign. especially the Baron Pit area, because they were so focused onto TG. They felt like if they remove the Braum, it'll be easier for them to set up for a fight. But in the end, use so much resources that when MSK goes in like this, they have nothing to use. Oh, the Miasma blocks the re-engage coming from the Ornn. So looks like for MSK, they'll try to force it here in the bot lane, but in the end, overextends here. TG gets caught out by Sovereign.
Yep, and that is gonna be Sovereign. We do see a solid defense from them. Tier 2 turret is done. Luckily, no casualties on their side. MSK just pretty much resolute on taking down turrets. They're not gonna force fights just yet. They just want in on these objectives just so that Sovereign would experience much more of a drought as far as trying to get back into this game. Just kind of dwindling down on what resources they can take advantage of here. Sovereign just gonna keep their cool though. Gonna continue to defend, ward off any waves that come in from MSK.
For MSK, trying their best to be very careful. Oh, the hook did not connect, so Sovereign will have to back off.
Yep. Sovereign, though, looks like still on the defense here. Not overextending their boundaries, just keeping a sizable amount of a distance so that they won't get caught off by MSK, because that's what I'm talking about right there. With if you can look at MSK's composition, they could potentially get pickoffs, which would be the least of what Sovereign wants here. But looks like pickoff will
happen for the Gangplank. Overcommits to that single ward. Sovereign loses their top laner in the red side of their jungle.
Shinsekai, I'm not sure what he was going for there. Like I mentioned, Sovereign, they need to keep up a solid defense. That's not necessarily one thing you want to do there by getting a pickoff, and that's going to be a cripple for Sovereign.
Oh, look at that play to disengage the Zac, to deny the engage from June, but looks like they will hook down Exo, lock him down with a Glacial Prison, but not enough damage in the hands of Sovereign, and MSK flooding to the base.
Yep, and that's gonna be it's MSK. They're gonna go for that inhibitor for members of Sovereign. Can they make the defense? Can MSK go for the finish at the same time though?
They can try, because we are seeing Shinsekai is still on the death timer. Going on to the Xayah. Featherstorm was used to disengage. Oh, but look at June with a beautiful Let's Bound to deliver the package onto MSK. Removes Xayah. That will be the condition to win this game 1.
Yep, and it looks like that is potentially going to be it. Gary just hitting in on this turret. Quite the heavy death timer for both Mexi and Arakelli. I think this game is as good as done, as the Philippine squad just going to come at it strong in this battle for third by taking this game 1. Okay, so MSK, they want to get kills before they finish this game. Okay, but they're going to go for the Nexus. As I mentioned, game 1 is going to go to Team Philippines in this best of 5 against Singapore Sovereign.
GG well played by both teams, especially for Sovereign to try their best to fight back. But for MSK, they will secure our first game for the battle for third.
Yeah, not a bad way for MSK. I mean, like I mentioned, what we were talking about before the game started, this is an opportunity. Okay, so you might not be the champion, you might not be able to head off to MSI this time around, but at least you want to end this run in the GPL on a high note right there. And it looks like none of these guys are going to be lax anytime soon. Both just kind of want to take this game serious. I mean, it is the last GPL. Why not go out with a bang as the last that we'll ever be having before all these changes that are happening in Southeast Asia. So very well played. But then again, looking at what happened for Sovereign though, what I kind of missed out on there is their lack of proactivity. Like I mentioned, they had a lot of opportunity to have utilized that Sejuani. Kra, who is a fantastic Thresh as we've seen in the group stage, was not used to full capacity either. They were so proactive in that early game, but the rest of Sovereign, they weren't quite online as Kra was with the proactivity. So I'm hoping that going into the next game, they could make better use of whatever composition they go for, because that is what I feel was massively lacking in that game for Team Singapore.
And we'll see it once we come back from our short break here. You are watching the Korean Premier League Spring Season 2018. We'll be back after the short break to continue our series for the battle for third.
Take that money, watch it burn, sink in the river.